you do host a national radio show every
Yeah.
weekday. Wanted to give you the opportunity to flex the national chops a little bit after flexing the OU chops, okay?
Okay.
Play a little game. Winners and losers
Okay.
of the offseason so far. You want to start with winners or losers? Losers is kind of always more fun.
Yeah, I just feel bad though. I don't like to point out anyone that's a loser.
Well,
That's a strong word.
it's not that they're actually losers, just they've said something, done something this offseason that maybe wasn't great,
I like to accentuate the positive, especially my broadcast. I try to on air, try to accentuate the positive. Maybe keep some of the negative to myself when I'm on air. I know sometimes it's hard to know when you're on air or off air. I'll leave it at that. The winners, I think Ted had to close his eyes for that one.
Took me a minute.
Ted had something in his eye. He had something in his eye.
I think Ohio State, it's hard not to start there. I mean, you add Quinshon Judkins to an already talented backfield with Henderson. That's tough. You add Caleb Downs at safety, who is in the conversation as the best safety in college football. He was sensational as a freshman last year. You add him to that defense that essentially brought everybody back. I mean, JTT, Burke, the corner, like pretty much everybody. They lose a linebacker, but that defense, who Jim Knowles, by the way, has quickly turned that into a top 5 defense. They just got better. Like Jack Sawyer, JTT, Tyleek Williams, their D-line is going to be humming. They got dudes at all 3 levels. You lose Marvin Harrison Jr. Emeka Ibuka is back. They added, I'm drawing a blank on the top wide receiver in high school coming out. I've been told this kid might wind up being the best receiver in the country next year. Like, that's how good. I think he's like 6'4", 215. I'm sure, Gabe, you could probably give me a quick
Jeremiah Smith.
It's a name to remember. Okay. He's the real deal. Oh, by the way, did I mention you brought in Chip Kelly? Chip Kelly's your OC. Hey, we can have debates on how good of a head coach Chip Kelly is. I actually think he's pretty good. But I don't think there's any debate as far as run game coordinator, offensive mind. His run game schemes, they're some of my favorites in the country. Like watching UCLA last year, watching them throttle and dismantle USC, it was something beautiful. But the way they attack you and the run schemes that he puts together, and you got those 2 guys in the backfield with an offensive line that comes back intact. The only question I would say is Will Howard. And I like Will Howard. And Gabe, you and I covered the Big 12 pretty extensively. He's a Big 12 champion. He had a rough night last year on a Friday in Stillwater that kind of gave some people some pause. And part of the reason he's gone, if we're being honest, is Avery Johnson is such a talented young quarterback in Manhattan that they ran him out of Dodge. So what does Will Howard do now with the expectation level in Columbus, Ohio compared to Manhattan, Kansas? It's not even comparable. So how does he handle all that pressure? And now that he's got all these weapons, like, to me, it's a defensive team that's going to run the football, and Will Howard's just going to be an accent with all these pieces around him. I think they've won the offseason. Another team that's going to be right there with them, how can it not be Oregon? Like, there's a reason Dan Lanning said, I'm good, Alabama. I'm going to stay right here. It's because they might have the best collective, spearheaded by a guy named Phil Knight, Division Street. They can get whatever they want. And I thought that was pretty reflective when they didn't just get 1 quarterback, they got 2. You got the quarterback of now in Dylan Gabriel, who I think is going to have a phenomenal year in that offense. And then you got Dante Moore, who's the quarterback in waiting in the future. So, like, not only do they set themselves up in the immediate, but they set themselves up for long-term success at that position too. I think Evan Stewart, the Texas A&M wide receiver, I think he's a big-time player. It won't surprise me if he has a bigger year than Franklin, who's now in the NFL. I thought that was a massive get. They got players On the defensive side, they're going to help them improve on the first and second portal windows. And I think that's another team that's been a massive, massive winner. This isn't going to be great for Oklahoma fans, but what Lane Kiffin's doing there in Oxford, and I know they lost Quinshon Judkins, but I thought Walter Nolan being added to that defensive line, like of all the players that have come through the portal, I could make a case that he's the best and most talented player from either portal session. And so like the one knock on Ole Miss or even Lane Kiffin has been they haven't played elite defense. Like I think they upgraded in several positions on the defensive side of the ball. They added an edge rusher. They added a D tackle. They added a corner. Like they got a legit roster. Like it feels like Ole Miss is kind of, they pushed their chips in and they said, we're all in. And I think Jackson Dart, you didn't gain this, but getting him to come back for another year, he got way better from year 1 to year 2. And I would expect he's going to continue that growth and maturation in year 3 as a starter there in Oxford. So that would be 3 that kind of jump out to me. Is I'll give you one more, Miami. And I'm fascinated to see what happens there. I think the quarterback that they added has got a chance to be one of the best in the portal. Washington State transfer. Ward he's a legit threat as a runner, as a thrower. I love the Damian Martinez kid from Oregon State. Now, he's from my neck of the woods. He's from Louisville, Texas, but he is thick. He is a power back. And Mario Cristobal, being an old O-line coach, that's what he wants to be. Like they want to line up and they want to run the ball down your throat. And they've got a really good
don't want to take
situation.
a knee, but they'll run it.
Don't get me. I mean, that was
just ridiculous.
When you got a game and you got a game secured, just go win the game.
Just take a knee. Just take a knee.
And I think Miami, and I think it's a huge year for them, right? Because Clemson's going to be Clemson. Florida State is another team that I could easily say is a big winner. They've reloaded. I still don't know what DJU is, but they got a really nice roster. But I think Miami is a team to keep an eye on, and they've upgraded the personnel quite a bit. So there you go. There's 4 winners.
Yeah,
Losers wise, Clemson, man.
That's what I was going to ask. Whenever you start listing off the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Oregons, like Texas, all of these
Texas
teams,
a winner.
Well, I'm just saying, like adding pieces onto their team to fill holes and bridge gaps, and Clemson doesn't do any of that. Is there any way to keep pace for them?
I don't think so. I don't know. I like Dabo Swinney so much. Like we had him on the show 2 weeks ago, and there's a part of me that wants him to succeed. Like I think transfer portal is great. I have no problem with anybody that wants to get in the portal, with coaches that want to utilize the portal. I think when used properly, it's exactly what you said, Ted. I think it's to fill in holes, add a little depth in some areas of weakness. I still think your core foundational piece of your program is the high school recruiting, developing those guys from a young age. I don't think that's ever going to change. But, Dabo, how about this, guys? In the last 4 portal cycles, 2 players they've taken from the portal. 2. And that was in 2021, they didn't take anybody. In 22 and 23, 1 each year. And this 24 cycle, 0. The other schools that had 0 players they added via the portal?
Yeah.
Army,
triple option.
Navy, and Air Force. That's it. That's the list. So there's an element of me, like I love what Dabo's about. I love the things that he has to say. I'm very, very cautious that can survive and that can keep you at the top of an ACC or at the top of college football moving forward. Because other teams, man, and they lost 12 players this year. And I get they may not be losing starters, but they're losing depth. And when you don't replenish that or replace it, how do you keep track? How do you keep pace with all those other schools in your conference and around college football that do? They're 2 years removed from an ACC championship. And if we're being honest, they had Florida State beat last year. That game goes to overtime. They lose it. I can't sit here and say that they've fallen off a cliff, but it was the first time in 13 years Clemson doesn't win double-digit games. I don't think you can sustain, because here's the deal. Dabo's kind of a victim of his own circumstance. He's raised the bar so high at Clemson, which Coach Venables helped him do, that there was a time when there was a legit argument. Who's the better program? Is it Bama or Clemson? Like, I think it was still Bama, but you could have the discussion. And so that was the standard of Clemson football. Winning the ACC every year, being in the playoff, and competing for national championships. That has massively taken a step back. Will that continue to happen? Will there be a continued slide? I don't know, but you're asking my opinion. I don't think you can sustain at the very top when other people are supplementing their rosters with quality players, and you're just going to continue to say, these are our guys, and we're going to do everything we can to stay at the top of college football. I don't think that's a reality, but we're going to find out. So I think they have to be a loser, and they have to be a loser just because their philosophy has not adapted, has not adjusted with where college football currently is in 2024.
We'll get you back to the interview, but first, fellas, Father's Day is coming up on June 16th, and our friends at Manscaped have some excellent gift options for you to get your dad. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code OKBreakdown. My dad's got a beard. He's had it my entire life. He needs a beard trimmer upgrade. Got to have it. So I got him the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It's the complete beard maintenance kit for all the bearded dads out there. This all-in-one kit comes with a beard hedger. That's Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for his beard. It also comes with a brush, comb, and scissors so he can style his beard and mustache. This kit's fancy, y'all. It's fancy. Now, maybe your dad isn't blessed with a luxurious beard. Maybe you're like Ted Lehman over there, beardless. Well, you can get some of the Boxers 2.0. They were designed with a simple mission: to make the most comfortable boxers using perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code OKBreakdown at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code OKBreakdown. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
All right, back to the interview. The other two things I wanted to pry out of you, I just said in my notes, Brian Kelly knows he can buy players, right? And then seems like things are getting awkward at Colorado with Deion. Just like that, they're still sold out all of their season tickets, but they feel like they're getting a little awkward. Those were the other two things I wanted to pry out of you.
So I kind of referenced that earlier when I said contrary when I was talking about Dominic Williams, because it did feel like that was a direct shot at maybe him or other D tackles that they're only about the money. I don't think, some of these guys are only about the money. I did the LSU spring game, and I like Coach Kelly. First of all, he's a hell of a coach. Let's just be real. Dude wins. He won big at Cincinnati. He won big at Notre Dame. His first 2 seasons, he won 10 games at LSU. Like, he's a big-time football coach. He made no bones about it. When we said in our production meeting, we're going after D tackles straight up. And I said, he was emphatic, not tackles. He's like, we have a deficiency. We're not good enough there. We're going to address that starting next week in the portal. And I even asked him, like, are you good on the record? He's like, oh yeah. The next day we're doing the broadcast. We're doing it from the field. He comes on for the first segment, sits with us. He says it on air. Like, he was not like being shy about it. So, like, it was a huge point of emphasis to address the defensive tackle need. I did not love his comments that he made on that podcast. And I have the utmost respect for Coach Kelly. I'm a big fan of his, but I didn't love what he had to say there because I didn't think it was I mean, look, I don't, everybody has their reasoning and rationale for why they want to go to a certain place. For some players, it is the almighty dollar. And no matter what, whoever makes the best offer, they're going to go there. And fine. And I think there's a lot of coaches that they don't want those players, but there's also other players that there's a lot of things that go into it. The money is an aspect of it, but the culture is an aspect of it. And the coaching staff is an aspect of it. The chance to win a championship, a lot of things that he described. And it felt like he insinuated that there weren't any players in this portal session that were about those things. I didn't love that. Look, Coach Kelly, they've got a great NIL at LSU. They've utilized it. They're going to continue to utilize it. He has to say what he has to say, but I was not a huge fan of those comments. Boulder, I don't know what's going on there, man. I have a hard time seeing them get to 5 wins. I think they've got the best player in college football. I think Travis Hunter is amazing. My son and I were talking yesterday. We were throwing the football in the yard. He said, Dad, we were talking about the new NCAA college game that we've got on pre-order. We're pretty fired up here about that game. He said, Dad, who do you think is going to have the highest rating? Who's the best player in college football? I said, honestly, bud, I think it's Travis Hunter. He said, me too. I think he's the best player in the country. What that guy can do is special. I think Shedeur is proven he can play quarterback at a high level. And I'm a believer in the portal, but I'm a believer in supplementing the amount of wholesale changes, both from a staff and an overall roster perspective. I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to look. And I'm going to tell you this, much like the SEC did not do Oklahoma any favors, the Big 12 did not do Coach Prime any favors. The back 7 games of that schedule are brutal. If I were ranking the top teams in the Big 12, I think 6 of my top 7 would be on the schedule for Colorado the back half of the season. It's going to be fascinating to find out what happens, but I'm one that I don't know if they're going to be able to break through. I don't know if I see them hitting that magical 6 number to go bowling. So again, they've lost some good players. They've added some good players. I'll be rooting for my man, Phil Lodeholt, who's the offensive line coach. Love that Big Phil's getting an opportunity. I've got my questions. I've got my doubts about exactly how this season's going to play out in Boulder. Is that good enough for the national perspective?
I wanted to let you flex, man. Yeah, let them know. Let them know. We're the brightest minds in the college football media, Gabe. Let's go.